Esteemed audience, disagreements are known to bring disunity in almost every corner of the world.
In today's motion, we seek to look at the effects of the same, and it states, conflicts are the biggest undoing to education in Africa.
This is the Great Debaters Contest Season 9. I am your host, Chris Bodrum.
And I am Esperantia Kapanga. In the proposition, we have Archbishop Njenga Girls High School.
And in the opposition, we have Kivaywa Boys Secondary School. Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes to make your submissions.
Bloody fields, pounding hearts, and all this misery we live in. Can we still bear all this heavy weight on our weak shoulders? Ngetish Lavender, from the great Archbishop Njenga Girls High School. Today, I strongly stand here to propose this motion that goes, conflicts are the biggest undoing to education in Africa. Let me be this gentle lady and define for you the terms. We have conflict. This is a situation in which people, groups, or countries are faced in a certain disagreement or argument. Undoing, this is a reason why somebody fails at something or is unsuccessful in life. Education, this is a process of teaching, training, and learning that is mostly taking place in schools or colleges where a person improves knowledge and develops skills. On my first point, the post-election violence that took place in Kenya in the year 2007. It is clear from the news that we usually see from most of our televisions that communities fought. Most of our roads were closed. Now can you tell me, how can these children access these schools? Roads are closed. How? When a child is at school, the community back is fighting. Can you tell me that child can just sit in class and concentrate whatever the teacher is saying? The fight was only for leadership. Guys, surely. My second point, in most schools, there is this teacher-student conflict. For instance, let's take School X from Kakamega County, where the students were denied a chance to watch the World Cup. And as a result, they started striking. And their striking made most of them to be expelled out of school. Guys, can this expulsion lead to them not continuing their education? This day, I'm a debater. I like debating. I like standing on my side. I can't bear standing here, convincing you guys on something obvious. Say good afternoon.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
Education is the only tool that Africa as a continent can use to liberate herself from the various challenges that faces her. Walid Fidel Castro from Kivaywa High School, home of immortals, I'm hereby to oppose the motion which says, conflicts are the biggest undoing to education in Africa. From the Macmillan Dictionary 3rd edition, we define conflict is defined as a situation where people, groups, or countries are involved in a serious disagreement or argument. Biggest simply means it is having a high impact on that particular thing. Undoing, the reason why something fails, or a synonym to downfall. Education, a process of teaching, training, and learning, especially in schools and colleges, to improve knowledge and develop skills. In reference to the motion of today, conflicts are the biggest undoing to education in Africa. This is a fallacy, a misconception, and a myth that you should not believe in. Why am I saying so? Africa as a continent faces various challenges in our daily today activities. For instance, I'm happy of the audience that stands here before me today, because in this hall, it is predominantly occupied by girls. And one of these factors we see is teenage pregnancy. Now, all the girls in this hall will align with me that in their various schools, maybe based yearly, at least some few girls have to be sent home. Why? Because of teenage pregnancy. When these girls are sent home, they are unable to achieve their academic dreams and endeavors. At some point, they are married off to some people in various villages so that they may ensure, so as to help them make the ends meet. So, when girls are impregnated in a duration when they are to be in schools so as to ensure that they achieve their academic excellence, tell me people, how is it that they are going to do this? Because when a girl, for instance, is impregnated, she needs to take some time off to be home, to nurse the kid, to nurse the baby. And during this time, others are not waiting for her because you say, time keeps on moving and it keeps on tickling. Nobody's going to wait for her. By the time she thinks of getting back to school, it's too late. And perhaps she ends up giving up on her decision, on her dreams academic-wise. I would like to inform you that according to the United Nations statistics, United Nations Population Fund statistic, nearly 378,000 adolescent girls in Kenya, aged between 13 years of age and 14, were impregnated last year. To make things far much more worse, a total of 28,932 girls aged between 15 and 19 years were also impregnated in the same period. And we can see that due to this, these students were unable to pursue their academic excellence. Some of these girls were sent home because, as per the mandates and the rules of various respective schools, when you get pregnant, you'll have to be dismissed and you go back home. So, I would like to oppose this motion and say that conflict is not the biggest factor that faces education sector in Kenya. There are other factors. And the moment we'll align with this is the moment we'll ensure that we save our country, we save our girls, and ensure that Africa as a whole achieve academic excellence. All right, thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
Toxic people take no blame and love playing the victim. So whatever they do, be ready to take the fault for it. This is one of the quotes from swanwaters.com. I'm Mercy Wafula from the great Archbishop Njenga girls, strongly proposing the motion that says, conflict is the biggest undoing to education in Africa. First, let me take you to the year of 2015, on 2nd of April, whereby the Al-Shabaab military attacked the Garissa University and killed 148 girls and boys. Also, 79 students from the university were injured, and they were fatally injured. Also, this caused fear among the students. When the students got fear, of course, many of them could not go back to school, on fear that the Al-Shabaab might come at any time. From this fear, the girls and boys stopped going to school. When they stopped going to school, it is evident that education was being undoing. Secondly, let us look at Nigeria, for instance. The Boko Haram, which was conflicting with the government. The Boko Haram had been targeting the school-going children and mostly girls. For instance, it was showcased on CNN News in the year 2014, whereby the group kidnapped over 200 girls from Chibok. The girls were sold into the market as slaves, and when they were sold as slaves, others, the remaining, were forced into early marriages in an early age, such as 12 years old. Tell me, will you like to be married off or see your daughter being married off at an early age of 12 years old? No, no one will like to see that. Also, according to Evolving World of History, Book 3, page 87, it is evident that the Africans and Europeans were conflicting. When the conflict was about the cultural heritage. The Europeans were teaching against the African culture, such as FGM, which is female genital mutilation. Most of African cultures and traditions, including the FGM, were practiced, including by the example, Maasai. This led to Africans withdrawing their kids from this school. And as the kids were withdrawn from the schools, it's evident that they stopped getting education. And if this conflict had not occurred, the girls and boys would have continued going to school and get education.
Lastly, on January 24th of 2016, the New Society for International Development released a report saying that over 1,000 land grabbers have been taking land from students from schools. And these schools, as the lands were being grabbed, this undermined the education of children like me and you who are seated here in this hall. So let us look at these conflicts. For example, the Langata Road School. The girls and boys stood at the streets protesting. When they protested, they stopped going to school. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
That's Wilberforce, Kivaywa High School. On to my cross-examination, I would like to tell you that you talked of in 2007 that political conflicts occurred in Kenya. And you said that communities disagreed. I would like to pose a question to you. What communities disagreed? Because you never clarified that. We never saw the conflict and its effect on education. I would like to tell you that you've got to understand the meaning of a conflict. What's a conflict? As stated by the first speaker on my crew, he said that a conflict is a continuous disagreement that is normally prolonged. And you talked about a strike between students about watching football. I don't see how that's a conflict because it's never prolonged. That's not a fact. You better get your facts right. And also, you talk of education. You talked of Garissa University being attacked by the Al-Shabaab. I would like to tell you that fear was only in Garissa University. Students who are focused in their studies, if it were me and I was studying in Garissa and the attack happened, I would have transferred to another university. I will have acquired my education in another university. So you can't tell me that conflicts, the fear that was inflicted in the students only appeared in Garissa universities, not in other universities. Also, cultural practices. The second proposer talked of cultural practices. He was actually supporting me by, he said that the Americans and the Africans had a conflict over the FGM. What is female? FGM is the female genital mutilation. How does this affect education? Students were the parents forced their students to go out of school. How did this affect education? The students' learning stopped. Due to this, goal number 4, which is quality education, was not gotten to all students. Moving on, I would like to say that the biggest, to me and to my crew, the biggest factor that's affecting education is lack of proper facilities. Why is this? According to the East African newspaper that was posted in August 17, 2018, it was clearly stated that in Rwanda, 57 schools were closed. Why was this? The schools were closed due to poor facilities in terms of hygiene. They lacked toilets, they lacked kitchens, they lacked dormitories. The 57 schools that were closed affected education greatly because the education that was continuing in these institutions was paralyzed, was frozen. So education was greatly affected. Also, in our country, the secretary of NAT, that is Colin Soyu, during the head teachers convention in Mombasa, he said that the CBC, which is the competency-based curriculum, is likely to fail. Why is this? There's a shortage of about 90,000 to 100,000 teachers in Kenya. This is greatly affecting education because the CBC curriculum is denoted to have a great impact on education. Also, there was another problem of most schools, research carried out by the union proved that most schools lacked classroom. Most schools haven't attained the goal number 9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. To wrap up my arguments, I would like to say that conflicts are not the biggest undoing to education because if we listen around, the audience can support me on that. I can't hear any sort of conflict outside the school that we are in. Thank you.
The proposers have been asked, are they suggesting that the government should redirect funds from other problems facing or limiting education and direct it to conflict resolution since that is the biggest problem facing education? The opposers have been asked, in the case where they said that a student who was unfortunately involved in the Garissa attack by the Al-Shabaab militia, and such a student should move to another school, are they considering the psychological trauma that comes with such an experience? Would such a student still be able to go to school? Third proposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
If you're not among us, then join us. And if you guys can't beat us, then join us. I quote it from William James. Whenever we are in conflict with someone, there is one factor that can make the difference between damaging our relationship and deepening it. That factor is attitude. I'm Muganda Sagaya Faith Boy from Archbishop Njenga Girls High School, standing still to propose this motion that states conflicts are the most undoing to education in Africa. On to the question asked. As a good government, we should not give funds to conflicts that are occurring in our nation. We should put peace ourselves. We should not take our money so that it can be put up to conflicts that are happening. A good government starts peace. Peace starts with us. My first point. According to MDG number 1, to achieve universal primary education, what is this scorpion that has eaten in the need to value education? This lack of conducive environment due to conflicts, tribalism. According to Aquamin report in 2002, in the northern part of Kenya, the Rift Valley, between 1991 on land clashes, most of the people, Kenya witnessed the eviction of some of her citizens from parts of the Rift Valley, moving from their places to other parts. And this disturbance of moving from their places to other parts led to the destruction in education system in Africa. In Kenya, sorry. Religious war. In Burkina Faso, a number of schools were closed due to the jihadi attacks, whereby more than 100 schools were closed in the country's northern region. Due to religion wars, then our schools are going to be closed because the country or the religious leaders are going to fight over their religion, and us as students, we are not going to sit in class and see people fighting. Instead, we are going to go at home. Let me ask you, if conflicts occur now, will you be here? All of us, everyone will be running, going to seek other places to sit because no conducive environment for our studies. And if education is going to be disturbed by the conflicts, then we are not going anywhere. As we know, education is the eradicator of poverty. Then, at this point where we are going to face conflicts, are we safe? Thank you.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Point of correction, dear proposers. It's not MDG, it's SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. I would like to talk about the Bible, 1 Kings, the story of David and Goliath. Goliath was believed to be the most strongest person during that time, and David was very tiny. But David killed Goliath. So if you talk about post-election violence happening in Kenya, let us say floods as a natural calamity affected the area. What is going to happen? That's not a conflict. It's natural calamity. It's going to affect even the conflict of post-election violence. Warren Gombo, Kivaywa Boys High School, opposing the motion that conflicts are the biggest undoing to education in Africa. Someone asked about a trauma. If you are learning in Garissa University and you are affected or the attack affected you, and my fellow opposer said that you will join another university. If you are a focused student, if you know that there is security in other places, there's no way you're going to tell me you're just going to take yourself to another university and you know there is insecurity in that place. Apart from that, we have cultural practices. Female genital mutilation is something that affects most of our countries. I'll take an example of Kenya. In Samburu, girls are circumcised and they are taken to be married. Young girls, 15 years and above. These girls are supposed to be taken to school so that they can learn. If you get married at a young age, obvious, you're fertile and you're going to give birth to children. So, what are we talking about? Conflicts or cultural practices? Apart from that, the University of Nairobi Research Archive say that in Kiambu district, most of the girls are being circumcised, and after circumcision, the girls drop out of schools, or some of them die because of this practice. If this practice is done to a girl and he loses a lot of blood, he will die, or she will die rather. Apart from that, it leads to early marriages. One gets circumcised. That's not something to argue about. She will go and get married to someone. On my third point, it's corruption in education. www.corruption.watchorganization.za states that over 24,000 public schools in South Africa from 6th to 28th March across the South Africa country, they were electing new people, new governance in the school. This is because of corruption. If there is corruption, there is no development in schools. Warren Gombo, thank you.
Proposers, you have 1 minute for final submission.
Thank you for the speaker who said that it is MDGs, not SDGs. Yeah, it's SDGs, not MDGs. For you, you're talking about SDGs. But for us, we're talking about the MDGs, Millennium Development Goals. Gotten? Today, I stand here telling you guys that you can't tell me from that mental torture that you have, from the attack in that university, you can go to another university and settle very quickly and adapt to that university system. Guys, that's cheating us. I don't agree with you. Someone asked from the opposition point that how can the strike where they were denied watching football cause undoing to education? Let me now tell you this. This is caused by, because in most conflicts, there's destruction of property. In that school, maybe at that time of strike, these guys destroy their classrooms, destroy their facilities in that school. How can they continue their education there? I stand for that. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 1 minute for final submission.
Oi, saidia, watoto wangu wamebebwa, saidia, mali yangu imebebwa. Most of you know who spoke these words. She is a woman from Bondo in Kisumu. This is because of a natural calamity. This is about floods. So, if you are affected by floods, how is education going to proceed? And yet, there is a natural calamity that affects the area. If your property is swept, your children die. There is no continuation of education. To the proposers, the Millennium Development Goals were replaced by Sustainable Development Goals. Please do more research and ensure that you use something that is of the trend from this year 2019 to 2020. Thank you.
Proposers, Lavender, you gave us a point on communities that have been fighting, or rather have conflicts among them affecting schools. We have quite a number within the country, and they are mentioned, and the information was there. I felt you ought to have given more. You ought to have explained yourself more on that point. Then on Mercy gave a very good submission. Your examples were on point. We took note of that. And then Faith, you made an attempt at answering the question, though I feel more needed to be done from you. To the Kivaywa boys, Fidel, that was a fairly good introduction. You made an attempt at citing other issues that bedevil the education sector, which was very good. At least it was very clear from the beginning that you are not saying that it is conflicts are not, it's just that there are other issues that bedevil the education sector. That position was well brought out. Then Wilberforce, you brought up other points such as FGM and the examples you gave even on the implementation of policies as other things that bedevil our education sector. However, you did not do a good rebuttal. It was weak. Because you picked on the example on the 2007 and 2008 post-election violence, and the facts are there. The facts are there on how the impact of this on education sector. So that was a very bad choice on your part. And then Warren, we also acknowledge the relevant examples you've brought up. You presented them quite well. And so far, may the best team well.
Archbishop Njenga Girls High School. The judges awarded you 67.3%. Let's give them a round of applause. Kivaywa Boys, the judges awarded you 68.1%, making you the winners of this debate. Congratulations to both teams for a job well done.
The debate may be over, but the conversation still continues across our social media platforms with the hashtag GDC for SDGs. Remember, it's only on the Great Debaters contest to get the best of high school debates. I've been your host, Chris Borro.
And I am Esperancia Kapanga. See you in the next debate.